What's going on to everybody on YouTube? Let me check the mic. Mic looks good. Check, 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 check. We seem good with the microphone. Y'all let me know if y'all don't hear me good. Let me check the settings one more time. Yeti microphone. Check, check. We look good. We look good. Shout out to everybody in the chat. As you come through, put your name in the chat. Say what's up. If you do one thing, hit the like button, all that good stuff. And boy, have I missed you guys. It's been a while. It's been about a week or two. We did like one of these last week, early last week, and then one the week before. And been itching to get back behind this beautiful blue microphone. Flu was rampaging through the house. Had all kind of stuff going on top of the Christmas stuff, Christmas shopping, 3 kids, all that good stuff. So it's good to just be back. It's good to be back. I've been itching to get back. It was a good little exercise to see if I would actually miss boxing if I was away from it. And I did. I miss being on this channel. And the content will be back flowing this week. It's good to be back. Salute Calix in the chat. Nando, appreciate you rolling through. Let's see what else we got. James Burrell, there was a reason Godzilla attacked Tokyo and left Yokohama alone. The monster, Inoue, is back. And Inoue looked like a pound-for-pound talent. Bud Crawford looked like a pound-for-pound talent. And I must warn the Spence fans out there. And I consider myself a Spence fan. I like Spence, just like I like Bud. Probably like Bud a little bit more because of the entertainment value that he gives us. But I must warn you, because I see the theory spreading out there that Bud looked a little more flat-footed. In each fight, Bud looks more flat-footed. And the aging out process is finally happening, right? That Al Heyman, that you instinctively agree that he's been aging out Bud. And he has been doing it. He's been aging him out. And I see you guys trying to pounce. Bud Crawford, he's looking more stationary. He looks more hittable. I must warn you that a more stationary Bud Crawford, I think, is more dangerous for Errol Spence Jr. A more stationary Bud Crawford who uses more torque, is meaner, and is willing to give up more shots to land horrific shots. The best finisher in boxing, arguably, along with Inoue. I must warn you. Be careful what you wish for when you're wishing for a more stationary Bud Crawford, because you're wishing for a dangerous Bud Crawford who can take shots, will take shots from Errol Spence Jr. and will land big, hellacious ones in return. So I must warn you, Spence fans out there. And by the way, and we'll talk about it, I still don't see a fight date. I still don't see an opponent from Errol Spence. What are we, 8 weeks? We're 8 weeks since Bud Crawford announced that he's going to fight Avanesyan, or as you guys like to call him, Ava whatever. And you guys are right there, out there now advocating for Ava whatever, the Euro bum, that Bud Crawford loaded his gloves against the Euro bum, Ava whatever. Still no fight date. Where's the fight date? Where is it? Where's the fight? We're 8 weeks. 8 weeks. Why do things take so long to develop, especially in the PBC world? And it's not just exclusive to the PBC world. This is, why don't we have Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall over by now? Why? I don't care anymore. And I was the one advocating, if Josh Taylor stays at 140, he needs to fight Jack Catterall first and foremost, if he's going to stay at 140. Now 3 belts vacated later. They pushed it back to February, and now they're pushing it past February. Why is this taking so long to develop? Josh Taylor is wasting 2 years of his prime on Jack freaking Catterall. Why do these dudes in the boxing world take so long to get things done? Why? Why in the hell? And I'm sure you guys are you're gonna put me in my place, I'm sure. Why are we 8 weeks out from Crawford going another way and saying, I'm going to fight Abba, whatever his name is, the Euro bum, and you still, Team Errol Spence does not have a fight date or an opponent? You had 2 months. I know the answer. know the answer. And I'm sure my highly intelligent chat knows the answer too. I know why we don't have a fight date or an opponent yet. We can continue the aging out process of Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford has always been the inconvenience in the room. He's always been the guy at 147 that we did not want there. We had a nice little PBC thing going at 147 until Bud Crawford entered the picture from 140. Boogeyman Bud. Almost 5 years. No. Let Errol take care of his business, and then Bud needs to cross the street. Then Bud crosses the street. Immediately, they signed the Ugas fight. Oh, just wait. We're going to unify all the belts, and then we can fight for undisputed. And then Errol Spence, and still nobody's explained it to me. And I hate to get off topic here, but nobody's explained it to me yet why in the hell it took 4+ months after the Ugas fight to where they could finally get Bud Crawford. And this is confirmed by both sides. Finally get Bud Crawford a rough draft of a contract. Not even a contract, a rough draft of a contract. 4+ months. Things take forever to develop. And I know why they're taking forever to develop in this particular scenario, but I don't care. Get things moving. So now that process is going to continue. We were here in a couple days after Crawford went his other way with Eva whatever, the bum, the Euro bum. Number 8 at welterweight. And by the way, I've been told a million times that welterweight is the best division in boxing by the PBC fans. Best division in boxing. Yet a guy who's number 8 is a bum. But I was told a couple days after that we're going to get the fight date soon for Errol Spence Jr. Now we're 2 months later. Still no fight date. Where's it at? So what's going to happen is fight date maybe in March, and that continues the process. And then Bud Crawford doesn't want to wait around 3 to 7 months. He's going to be called a duck for going fight somebody else. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. And the low vibrational, low IQ boxing fans are going to buy into it. But things are taking too long to develop. Look at Devin Haney and Lomachenko. Devin Haney has clearly stated he wants a fight in March, and Devin Haney and Lomachenko fought back-to-back weekends in October. And we're now in December, 2 months later. We don't have a fight signed. Why? If a top fighter who is undisputed dictates that he wants a fight in March, you get him the damn fight in March. I don't care what's going on. I hear people telling me, oh, it's March Madness. You can't compete against March Madness. There are 2 weekends in March where there aren't March Madness. Pick one of them. The dude clearly stated he wanted to fight before Ramadan. He wants to fight in March. The dude wants to be busy. He's a top fighter, undisputed champion who wants to be busy. Let the dude be busy. It's like spotting a unicorn. A top fighter who wants to fight. Oh, my God. How about we let him do it? Oh my God, a top fighter, a champion, a guy who actually wants to fight for belts and be a champion and who actually wants to fight. How about we let him do it? But no, we can't have that because of this and that. No, how about you stop making excuses? You're a boxing fan. If a champion wants to fight for real championships and actually wants to fight, let the dude compete for real championships and actually want to fight. For the love of God, Mary, Mother of Magdalene, what is wrong with you dudes? Why are you speaking out against your own interests? The dude wants to fight in March. Let the dude fight in March. Instead, we're hearing May. And Devin Haney's like, why can't I get the fight in March? They're trying to make it to where it's an advantage to Lomachenko, is what Haney's saying. I'm busting at the seams at 135, but I'm willing to stay at 135 and defend all of these belts, which is good for boxing, and do it against a guy who is seen by many as a pound-for-pound top 10 type of guy. Let me do it. But instead, we got to wait 2 months after. Why can't you just do it in May? How about we do it in March? Vasily Lomachenko came out to his credit and said, Devin Haney is the A side here. I'm the B side. He's got all the belts. He's the champion. He's been active. I'm the B side. He's the A side. So let the A side call the shots. And I think they're trying to build this wall between Lomachenko and Haney. That these two guys are afraid of each other. They don't want, and they're not. Haney's not afraid of Lomachenko. Lomachenko's not afraid of Haney. They both want to fight. Let the dudes fight in March. And to me, this has Bob Arum written all over it. We're going to push this fight back. We're going to try to favor Lomachenko. We're going to try to favor the belt, get him back the belts because he sees Devin Haney as expendable. He doesn't see Devin Haney as a guy who's going to sign long-term to Top Rank. He's an expendable guy. Lomachenko is not to Bob Arum. He doesn't see Haney as a guy who's going to sign long-term to Top Rank. So he sees him as the guy that we want to get these belts back into Top Rank hands long-term. A guy who's going to stay at 135 long-term and who's going to be Top Rank long-term. I think that's what it is. I don't think Lomachenko has anything to do with this. They call him Amnesia after the Knockout of the Year candidate. Interstate Take, I heard Al doesn't want to give Bud the Spence fight because Bud ain't giving him future options. Bad business to potentially lose all those belts. And that's what I'm saying. You nailed it. The high IQ chat. Keith been eating cakes and candles and taking flute lessons again. I heard Al is worried of losing all those belts without any options on Bud. That's what I'm saying. Quick ducking glove gate 2.0. And that's the other thing, like the glove gate thing. Shout out my guy, Bruce Gass. Shout out to you. Look, I don't even have to see the gloves. I don't have to know anything about the gloves without knowing that this is crap. And the reason I say this is I have instincts, I have intuition. And I say this isn't just boxing. This is every area of life. If you have somebody who's either been wrong or lied to you about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you better be damn right that they're lying to you or wrong about H. So if I have the same dudes in the boxing community who have been telling me that Tyson Fury had egg weights in the glove and his trainer poisoned him and all this good stuff, those are the same dudes telling me and pushing this glove gate, then I already know that is nonsense. I already know it. I just use my instincts. And by the way, if this guy is Ava Bum, if he's a Euro Bum, if he's Ava, whatever his name is, why does Bud Crawford have to load his gloves to beat him? No, I'm just using what you guys are telling me. Why the hell is new boxing media darling Boots Ennis not fighting Speedy Ellis on the same card instead of a Karen? These are the questions I have, Nando. And I don't know. Like, if he's going to do it, why didn't you do it last summer? He last fought in May, right? And I have people telling me he's young. He's in his mid-20s. He's young. For the love of God, dude, somebody's 6 years into their career. I think he's 6 years in, maybe 7, whatever it is. You should be headlining cards. But this dude is buried on undercards. And on undercards that people aren't watching. This Tank Davis card, January 7th, I believe. That's a horrific card. Full of mismatches. Tank Davis, I believe, is minus 1,400 right now against Garcia. And they're going to build him up to be something that he's not, I know. And he's overachieved up to the point. He's done good things at 130, but that was at 130. It's weight bullying again. But it's a tune-up, and that's fine. You want to fight a tune-up before Ryan Garcia, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that, but it's a pay-per-view tune-up. So, okay, stack the undercard. So they're going to stack the undercard with names and not fights. Because Boots versus Karen is a gross mismatch. Boo Boo Andre versus the dude that he's fighting, Damon Nicholson, gross mismatch. These are going to be at least 25-1 mismatches, at least. And you're putting that on a pay-per-view, and you're putting Boots in a mismatch on an undercard of a pay-per-view that a lot of people aren't going to buy. And it goes back to what I'm saying. Waste. It's a waste of prime years. We talked about Josh Taylor at the top. Josh Taylor wasting 2 prime years on Jack Catterall. Why? If I would have known it would take this long, I wouldn't have advocated for the fight. Dude, get the fight over with and move to 147. Why not just move to 147 at this point? They keep pushing back the date, You keep vacating belts. You're still at 140 for what? For what? You're not going to campaign there. Let's move up. Who cares about Jack Catterall? At the end of the day, I mean, I don't care at this point. Let him fight somebody else for a vacant belt. Wasting prime years on stuff that does not matter. Boots Ennis wasting prime time of his career on fights that do not matter, buried on undercards. He should be, if he is who they say he is, he should be headlining cards. He should be headlining major cards right now. Virgil Ortiz is about to fight Stanionis, it looks like. Good for him. And Virgil Ortiz's manager is on Twitter saying we want to fight 3 times next year with Stanionis at the top. Number 5 versus number 6 in the division. Finally, we're getting movement in this dumpster juice division. Despite what you think about Crawford versus Evanesyan, it was 2 versus 8. Despite what we think about Errol if he fights Keith Thurman, it's something like 1 versus 7, whatever it is. Virgil versus Stanionis is 5 versus 6. So we're getting fighters fighting top 10 competition finally in the division, but where is Boots Ennis? And the narrative out there is going to be that Boots is ducked. If Boots is ducked, he's got to stay busy. He's got to be fighting every 3 months, mowing guys down and garnering attention instead of 9-10 months in between fights. Almost every week we see Boots Ennis on Twitter. What's he saying? Ran 27 miles today. Fight day coming soon. Sparred 27,000 rounds today. Fight day coming soon. Fight day coming soon. Fight day coming soon until 9 months later, he finally has a fight date. Wasting time. You got to be fighting every 3 to 4 months if you're claiming you're ducked. Just pick the top guy available to you who's willing to fight. I don't care who it is. Or move up weight classes to try to give up your strengths in order to lure a top fighter into the ring with you. Go the Paul Williams route or go the Gennady Golovkin route and fight the top competition available to you almost quarterly until somebody has to step in the ring with you, until you circle everybody and say, you got to fight me. Boots Ennis, to my knowledge, hasn't exercised his right to fight Bud Crawford yet. Hasn't. They haven't advocated for it yet. Why? So I'm tired of hearing the excuses. You got to get something shaken. You got to get something shaken. And this Karen dude's not going to do it. And if you're going to fight a Karen dude, you got to do it quicker. You've got to do it quicker. You should have done that in July, August. You should have fought another Karen dude last month. And if you're going to fight another Karen dude, you do that in February. And if you got to fight another Karen dude, you do it in April or May. Keep fighting. But you don't fight a Karen dude 9 months after fighting another dude who was on Karen's level. Don't. You don't. But that card right there, January 7th, that pay-per-view card is dumpster juice trash nonsense is what that is. Mismatch after mismatch after mismatch after mismatch. I don't know what to say about that, but Errol Spence should have a fight date by now. And what it tells me is the reason I have to use my instincts on this. It goes along with this aging out process that we've seen. Al Heyman wants Bud Crawford to look around and just say, look, I'm tired of this. I'm just going to move on. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of it. For 5 years, they told me to cross the street. I crossed the street. Then you sign to fight Ugas. Then after the Ugas fight, you wait 4+ months to send me a contract. And then I move on to Ava Bum, Euro Bum, number 8 in the division. And then I fight him, and you still don't have a fight day for Errol Spence. You're going to announce a fight day for Errol Spence after I fight Ava, whatever his name is, Euro Bum, to further run out the clock, run out the clock, run out the clock. Meanwhile, Bud Crawford is 36 years old. And once again, as I said at the top, if you dudes out there, the Errol Spence, they call them the Errol sexuals, whatever you want to call them, the hardcore Errol Spence fans, because I consider myself an Errol Spence fan. I like watching dude fight. I like Errol Spence. But these hardcore, extreme Errol Spence fans who they'll do everything they can possibly do to down Bud Crawford. I got news for you, dude. If you think a stationary Bud Crawford is good news for you, I'm just telling you. A Bud Crawford who is willing to stay in the pocket and give up 3 or 4 shots in order to land 1 or 2 big ones is bad news for Errol Spence. I just got news for you. Watch the torque he puts on his shots now. And suddenly you have the best finisher, arguably in boxing, right there with Inoue, who is willing to take shots to land bigger shots because he's more stationary. I got bad news for you, man. You go back and look at the 4th, 5th rounds of Ugas. And I know Errol Spence isn't going to stay in. He's going to be more careful than he was. I get it, but I'm just telling you. If Spence is lured into trades with Bud Crawford, guess who's going to win that all day? And guess what's going to happen with the more stationary Bud Crawford? More trades. And if Spence is landing 3-1 more than Bud Crawford, good. That's going to go up for him for half the fight. But how's the second half of that fight going to go? We'll see. Bob doesn't want to compete with March Madness. Devin is making excuses. If you ask me, Bob does top-ranked business, not Devin in a sideshow. Bob looking daddy. There are 2 weekends in March where March Madness doesn't exist. Pick one. Lomachenko says he's the B side. He's admitted it. He's admitted that Devin Haney is the A side. You have a champion who cares about the belts, who has consolidated all the belts, who says he wants to fight and he wants to fight now. That's 5 months between October and March. That's plenty enough time to get it done. I don't want to hear that you need 7 months. Don't want to hear it. You have a champion who cares about belts, who wants to fight. That's all we're asking for as boxing fans. We want more champions who care about the belts, who want to be champions, who want to fight top competition, and who want to do it consistently and want to do it quickly. And Devin Haney's trying to get that. So I don't want to hear the outs. I don't want to hear the alibis. Give him his fight date. And this isn't Lomachenko. I don't put any of this on Lomachenko. I like Lomachenko. I'm a Lomachenko fan. To me, this is Bob Arum. Devin can make weight in March, but not May, really. And that's a fair comment. That's a fair comment. But the point of the matter is he wants to fight in March. And he's the A side. Give it to him. Top Rank trying to juggle their schedule. I don't think it's nefarious. All right. Fair enough. We'll see. But Haney will most likely be going back to Eddie, regardless of results with Loma. And that's my point, Nando. It's Bob knows that Devin Haney is expendable to Bob. So I think there's a higher percentage of him playing games with Haney than there is with him playing games with Lomachenko. I need to save David Amnesia's autopsy before I can arrive at a verdict. It's only a few months younger than Munguia. Yep. Come on, bro. It's not a horrible card. That Crawford card was a horrible card. It was. I'm not going to deny that. The Crawford card was horrible. The 400-pound heavyweight. That was terrible. The Crawford card was horrible. It was. But this one's equally horrible. Actually worse, because I felt like you got a better main event in this one from a pound-for-pound level fighter. And Tank Davis at this point isn't a pound-for-pound level fighter because he just simply hasn't put in the work to be a pound-for-pound level fighter. Boots better hope Karen don't put her hand on her hip and demand to see the manager. The Crawford fight didn't even have been on pay-per-view, in my opinion. And that's fair. All that's fair. That's fair. $80 for PBC Tune-Ups Pep Boys Championship Boxing. Thank you, Al Heyman. Is it Showtime? Maybe that can save it with Jake Paul. Be optimistic. And look, Let's try to get to a couple more. I'm assuming the money there is for Boots to fight Ellis. They're only offering his minimum. Therefore, Karen, you can't talk boxing without business, unfortunately. Unfortunately, yep. Santeo Media Amnesia showed up to win and did a good job of staying in the pocket. Ridiculous as some claim he isn't a good fighter. And before I get to Teofimo, and what I think about him, just on that fight, and also need to talk about Inoue. On that fight, Avanesian does a great job of changing levels. He's constantly going up and down, trying to show you different looks because he gives up. He has clear disadvantages, especially against the Terrence Crawford. So he disguised himself well with the changing of levels. If you watch him fight, if you go back and watch highlights of him, even watch this fight, I thought he did a good job of landing shots on Bud Crawford, and Bud Crawford was clearly luring him in for a knockout. Bud Crawford clearly didn't respect his punching power like he did some other fighters he's fought in the past. But Bud Crawford has a track record of wanting to finish you, and in order to finish you, he'll give up shots. He has a killer instinct. He is willing to fight. He's not a guy who just wants to go around the ring like a pinball, use a lot of lateral movement, and in a way, the same thing. They're not guys who want to coast to decisions. Somebody brought up, it's True School Sports. He brought up the fact that the last time a Bud Crawford fight went decision was in the Barack Obama administration. It's been that long. In a way, the same thing. In a way, he showed that against Paul Butler. Paul Butler was there to survive. Paul Butler was throwing statistically like 28 punches per round. He was there to survive, but what did Inoue do? He still stepped on the gas late in the 11th round to stop him, and he did that by setting up shots with body shots. He was killing the body, right? Body, just wearing Butler down and taking any bit of life that he had away from him. So Crawford and Inoue are guys who are willing to sacrifice being punched in order to finish you. And it looks bad at times. People who are protect the getting hit is bad, all that stuff. That's why they're not as drawn to Bud Crawford as a lot of people who just want to see entertainment are. And there's a sweet science behind what Bud Crawford is doing, and people who are new to boxing may miss that. He's giving up shots in order to set his up. And he was taking shots from Avanesian knowing, I'm just going to wait it out. I'm setting up my shots, and I'm going to knock this guy the hell out. And he did. He can say he has a talent level and skill level. He still has the legs, enough legs left to outbox, use a lot of lateral movement, get clinchy, get cagey, and not get hit nearly as much. He has that talent level. He has that skill level, but he wants to kill. He's a monster. As Inoue is the monster, Bud Crawford is the boogeyman. They want to kill. They have killer instinct. They want blood. It's in their nature. That's why we need to enjoy these pound-for-pound talents when they're here, because Bud Crawford doesn't have much left. 36 years old, the window's closing. Inoue is about to go to his 5th weight class. The window's closing. They've been around for a while. Enjoy them while they're here, guys who have the talent level to just play it safe, outbox people, but want to kill you. They want to knock your head off. And Avanesian did a good job, like I said, changing levels, using constant feints, landing power shots in order to try to equalize the fight, but he wasn't able to equalize it because Bud Crawford has a good chin. And having a good chin, it allows him to fight that type of fight to where he's willing to give up and can give up shots in order to land the big shot. So I thought it was a great performance by Bud Crawford. I thought Avanesian fought a good fight. I enjoyed the hell out of the fight. I did. I didn't have buyer's remorse. I enjoyed the fight. Great knockout. Set it up well. Just like I enjoyed the hell out of the Inoue fight. And it was an anticlimactic finish to an undisputed run, right? And that's what we said going into the fight. Going into his fight with Donaire is the heavier work is on the front end for Inoue when it comes to undisputed 118. The easy work is at the end. And Butler was a guy there to survive. Huge underdog. And Inoue still was able to look fantastic doing it with 11-round knockout. And I need to get into the Teofimo stuff because that was alarming to me. And I'm about to. Ugas is a bum. He's just a big welterweight that gave guys Porter problems. He ain't that impressive. I disagree. I thought Ugas had a good run. I thought he was a solid welterweight, top 5 welterweight. So I actually like the Errol Spence performance overall with Ugas. But Ugas ain't no Crawford. But who is Haney going to fight at 140 over at Matchroom Montana Love? LOL. And the problems that, and I think instinctively that's why, that is why Devin Haney wants this fight with Lomachenko is I think instinctively he knows that the bigger problems are at 140. 140 is a much different division than 135. I've been saying it for years. 135 is an overrated division, overvalued division. 140 is a different beast. Probably with 115, the most undervalued division in boxing. You got some sharks at 140 who are willing to fight and mix it up. And we'll talk about this. It's going to perfectly segue into Teofimo Lopez. But I think Devin Haney knows this, and he instinctively knows that even though Lomachenko pound for pound above these guys and a bigger name than these guys at 140, he's actually probably an easier fight than a lot of these guys at 140. And it will bring more to his resume than beating some of these tougher fights at 140 stylistically. I think Devin Haney knows it. I think that's why he wants to fight. He wants it sooner than later. We'll see how it goes. But if a champion, if a guy is willing to fight for real championships, consolidated, and wants to stay active, you don't make excuses like, oh, it's March Madness. No, he wants to fight in March. Let him fight in March. That's already 5 months. Why wait 7 months? I don't care what the alibis are. He wants to fight in March. Let the guy fight in March. Andre said no to Janabek, 1 million plus. ESPN main event for undercard slot on a Tank pay-per-view that won't sell for a couple $100,000. Shout out my guy, Drew. Thanks for the super chat. And this is what I'm talking about, the American boxing mentality. It's like business, currency over legacy. And what have we stated on this channel? What does currency over legacy get you long term? It gets you long term. It gets you less it gets you less currency and not much of a legacy. Boo Boo Andre, for years we've heard, oh, it's business. 2,500 to 25 minus 2,500 minus 6,000 minus 8,000. Just a huge favorite in every single fight. And his fans will tell you, oh, the shot's coming soon. He's going to get the big fight soon. Continues to fight mismatch after mismatch after mismatch. And he continues with that trend, and we expect something different to happen. What's the definition of insanity? Expecting a different result, doing the same thing. Mismatch after mismatch after mismatch. And this one will be no different. Janabek twice. And you watch Janabek fight and you say, that's a winnable fight for Boo Boo Andre. It's a winnable fight. The dude is so risky averse that he was willing to stay away from that guy. And you watch Parker versus Ryder and you say he was willing to stay away from that guy twice. That's how risk averse he was. Winnable fights. But I have to assume it's not as good as the eye test tells us because he was willing to duck those guys twice. Guys who are very beatable. And this is the American mentality we talk about, the American boxer mentality. I asked the question earlier, why is it, if we look at the major belts, 1997, 25 years ago, if I remember correctly, 23 American fighters own 23 belts spread across 20 different fighters. 2022, we own 17 belts spread across 8 fighters. It's a big difference. So I asked myself, why? Why is that happening? And people throw out, oh, the world is catching up. The world's catching up. Fair enough. It is. I mean, the same as basketball. 92 Dream Team comes along, blows out the world. We would have never thought 30 years later that some of the best basketball players in the world would be foreign-born players. Giannis, Luka. It's happening before our eyes. The world's catching up, but it's not just that. Because if you look further into it, I think 1997, 21 countries were represented among major belt holders. Today it's 16. So we actually have less countries represented among belt holders, major belt holders in boxing today. So that doesn't fully explain what's going on. And also the amateur system doesn't fully explain it either. Because we're still producing. Look at Top Rank. Top Rank. Bob Arum is still the best by far at picking out who the young talent is and then bringing them up through the farm system. He's still the best at doing that by far. Nobody's even close. The other guys are good at the Yankees model, right? Trying to pick off with money, overpaying fighters to try to pluck them from Top Rank's roster. But Top Rank is still the best at bringing up stars. The farm system, the amateur system doesn't fully, and I understand the amateur system isn't that good here, but you have other countries where the amateur system isn't that good and they're still producing professional talent. Mexico does it. There's not much of an amateur system there. They produce talent. I think there's something deeper going on here, a mentality that American fighters have. It's an entitled mentality that American fighters have that a lot of foreign-born fighters don't have, because they have to go to different continents and fight and come up a little more difficult way than some American fighters do. There's a mentality difference. And I think it's eating away at some of our talent. And I think it's Arena IQ in my podcast a couple months ago, and he brought up a great point. It's like, there's a reason that there's a growing number of American fans, boxing fans, who are more attracted to foreign fighters. It's because for them, it resembles more of a sport. They actually want to fight. American fighters, it resembles more currency over legacy, right? It's a business. And I ask myself as a boxing fan, why would I care about somebody else's business? I don't care about other people's businesses. I don't. I'm a business owner. I don't care about other people's businesses. I care about my own. I show up to boxing to watch boxers. I want to watch fighters fight. So I'm going to be naturally gravitated, as a dude who just wants to watch good fights and good fighters, I'm going to be naturally gravitated towards the dudes who treat it like a sport and who want to fight, not the dudes who treat it like a business. And that's why it's foreign to me as a boxing fan when I hear Devin Haney. Devin Haney goes over to Australia, and people act like Australia is the moon, like I said, like there's no gravity over there or something. It's a flight. You get there from a flight. These American fighters act like they can't go anywhere. But he goes over there, does something nobody else is willing to do, goes, fights Kambosos, wins. Does it knowing he has to go over there again to rematch him, and does that, wins even more emphatically, and gets all the belts. He's got them all. He did something that all boxing fans we want to see, right? We want to see fighters try to become champions, fight top competition. So it's confusing to me when he does that. And then you have people out there saying, oh, but he's not a draw, he's not exciting, all this good stuff. And by the way, that's overplayed too, because I thought his fight with Jojo Diaz was quite exciting. I thought his fight with Linares was somewhat exciting. But he's this, he's that, and then praise guys like Ryan and Tank, who aren't doing much out there right now. Like there's some sort of champions at 135. But besides that, he says the other thing we want is activity. He says he wants to fight in March. And it's confusing to me as a boxing fan who just wants to see guys fight top competition and do it consistently and do it as quick as possible when people are trying to explain this away to me. No, he should wait till May because March Madness, or it doesn't make sense to do it in March because he's not going to draw as much rate. Dude, they programmed us to think like them. They programmed us to become fanagers. And that was purposeful. We're sitting here explaining away them pushing back a dude's fight who wants to fight. And he wants to fight a guy who they said he wouldn't fight and wasn't willing to fight. And Pete, for years, I've been hearing this. And he wants to fight, and he wants to do it quick. Let him do it. But they programmed us to think like them. They programmed us to think and talk like managers and promoters and network execs. I don't want to hear fans talk like Steven Espinoza. I can't stand this Steven Espinoza, the weasel. Can't stand him. Why do I want to hear Steven Espinoza clones? For the love of God, dude, I turn on these channels and they have dudes talking like Steven Espinoza. These Twitter spaces have Steven Espinoza on. I don't want to hear Steven Espinoza. I'm sorry. Why does anybody want to hear that? What is the draw to hearing a network exec speak about why this fight can't happen, why that fight can't happen? They brainwashed you. All of these fights are makeable. Every single one of them. They could have made Crawford versus Spence 5 damn years ago. Could have made it. We're still sitting here without Errol Spence fight date. It takes time, right? It takes time to negotiate contracts. I love it. Like when Avanesyan's manager came on and said, it took us like 24 hours. It took us like 24 hours to make the fight with Bud Crawford. It was easy to work with. Everything was fine. BLK Prime seems fine. And all of the funds were there. Bud Crawford got 2 installments, $5 million before the fight even happened. Avanesyan's team and Bob Arum came out and said this. And Bob Arum even said, it doesn't do anything for me to say this. The dude's suing me. It doesn't do anything for me personally to say this, but the funds are all there. I know it. The funds are there. Avanesyan's team, the funds are already secured. It was easy to make the fight. But Crawford versus Spence is not easy to make. Why? Because it's a super fight. Oh. So Spence's advisor is advising him as the A side in the super fight to not take any guaranteed money. Have you ever thought about that? Just think about that. Spence's advisor is advising him to not take any guaranteed money in a super fight. Never heard such a thing. Spence's advisor is advising him to not take guaranteed money in a super fight as the A side. He's the A side. He's not going to take guaranteed money. Okay. All right. But Calix, BLK Prime's going to lose money on the Bud Crawford fight. Bud Crawford's going to have eggs on his face when he only does 20,000. Bud Crawford doesn't care. If the pay-per-view flops, he's got 10 million George Washingtons to wipe away those tears. Oh, my God. He'll be laying in his satin sheets in Omaha, Nebraska. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. The pay-per-view flop with his 10 million George guaranteed Washingtons. Teofimo Lopez. I'm watching the Teofimo Lopez fight on Saturday night along with and I had to watch the Teofimo Lopez fight again because I'm barely paying attention to it because Bud Crawford's on. And when Bud Crawford's on, that garners attention. That garners all my attention. Like I said, when a true pound for pound talent comes around who wants to knock dudes' heads off, you got to watch. So I really wasn't paying attention. I had 2 TVs up. So I watched the full Teofimo Lopez fight after against Sandor. And I came in saying that Sandor is undervalued at plus 500, and I actually threw some money down on it because he was undervalued, and it didn't pay off because he ended up losing the fight. He ended up losing the fight closer than the scorecards, in my opinion. I actually had it 95, 94 for Sandor. I thought it was even on scorecards, and then you had the knockdown. Whether it was a real knockdown or not, I don't know. There were 2 knockdowns in question. And Teofimo Lopez clearly was confused and clearly kept trying the same thing and was clearly not given clear directions, clear and concise directions in the corner as to maybe, just maybe you want to circle around his power hand. Just maybe. Maybe we might not want to just keep jumping in. I don't know. But when I watch Teofimo Lopez fight now, it's clear that he's in a logarithmic growth stage of his career, and he shouldn't be at this point. Look at all the young talents out there. Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Bam Rodriguez, even the Jared Anderson, who's young, who's in there. But each year they get better and better and clearly better. Teofimo Lopez is plateauing. And Teofimo Lopez is a much better win than those guys. Much better. Lomachenko was a great win. You cannot take that away from him. I don't care if Lomachenko had a torn rotator cuff. He stepped in the ring and he lost. It's the same thing I said with Teofimo Lopez. With the Kambosos loss. I don't care what ailment you had, you stepped in the ring and you lost. And I noticed something else before I get into the growth pattern here with Teofimo and why it's a serious red flag. And I think it sort of models Danny Garcia's career in a way, which is another red flag. But I noticed a lot of the Teofimo Lopez, if you hear beeps in the background, they have bad weather around. So discount that. But if you notice Teofimo Lopez's fans, and I don't want to speak too much on them, like the extreme fans, and they had every right to do this at the time. They talked about how ESPN ignored the Salido loss. Ignored it. They just never talked about it. They treated Lomachenko like he was an undefeated fighter. And they just ignored that loss altogether. They never talked about it. Never, ever. Never brought it up. They treated Lomachenko like he was an undefeated fighter. There was a mass marketing campaign out there for Lomachenko for ESPN. And by the way, all the networks do this. HBO did it with their fighters that they want to promote in their network. Showtime does it. They all do it. DAZN does it. And now we've got ESPN doing it. They did it with Lomachenko, clearly. But they're doing the same thing now with Teofimo. How many times did you hear about Kambosos and the Kambosos loss on Saturday night? I didn't hear about it. Completely ignored it. Just completely. So it's ironic that a lot of the same things that the Teofimo extreme fans were complaining about with Lomachenko, now they're ignoring when ESPN does it with Teofimo. It's the same mass marketing campaign, same type of thing. And I'm fine with it. Like, it's okay. It's okay. But it's just an observation. I don't know what to do with this. It's just an observation. Since Teo decided not to bring back perfecting athletes, nutritionist, and Joey Gamache after the Loma fight, you see how rudimentary his is. And this is what I wanted to talk about. And thank you, Drew, for this and for the super chat, because it perfectly segues me into what I was about to hit on with Teofimo. There's a clear, when we talk about Teofimo and his career track, there's a clear right now plateauing going on, right? The Comey knockout, all those things that were going on 2019, 2020, then he beats Lomachenko and his career is supposed to explode, right? Supposed to explode. And he's young. So there are 3 different growth patterns that go on throughout the career of anything. This is anything. This isn't just boxing. And golf fans will know, especially, and golfers will know especially what I'm talking about here. Because I took up golf this year. And the first thing the guy told me is your most improvements that you're going to make are right now. Right now. You shoot a 125 now, you're gonna get to 95 in no time. Get you some new clubs, learn one or two things. You're down to 95. You shave 30 strokes off your shot, off your score right now, and that's the beginning level of growth. Beginning of your career, you're gonna learn the most. You're gonna go from nothing to learning things, and your growth is gonna go up. Immediately. That's the beginning stage. That's the exponential growth stage. It just shoots up. It goes like this and it shoots up. Then as you become intermediary, the intermediary growth stage, that's the linear growth. You're still growing the same amount of time that you spend on something. That's the same amount of growth that you're going to have, as long as you're doing it smart. And that was Teofimo Lopez around the Lomachenko fight. He's still showing growth. And at this point in your career, you should still be showing growth. It just slows down a little bit. You're not at the amateur level, but your growth, you're still growing, but it's slowing down a little bit. Now he's at the logarithmic growth. Logarithmic growth is supposed to be when you become a master at something. When you get to the NBA, Michael Jordan can only be so great. LeBron James can only be so great. That's why PED use is so, people ask, why is PED use more prevalent at the professional level than the college level and high school level? Is because high school level and college level, these athletes are still showing a lot of growth, and they don't have to use performance enhancing drugs. But once you get to the professional level, NBA level, the top of the NBA level, NFL, you're looking for any little thing. It gets super micro. And you're looking for any sort of way to separate yourself from the other top guys. That's logarithmic growth kicking in. It's you start to plateau. You can only grow so far. Your career starts to plateau. Your talent, your athletic ability starts to plateau. And Teofimo should not be at that level of growth this early in his career, and he is. That's a red flag. Ask any golfer out there. Getting to 125 to 95 is not that hard. Getting to 95 to 85, that's that linear growth. It starts to get a little more difficult, but it's doable. Getting from 85 to a real scratch golfer, mid-70s, close to par, it's almost impossible. You have to be a freaking alien. It's almost impossible. You have to take a lot of time, but become so micro, so micro that it's almost impossible. And once again, that's why PED use is so prevalent in boxing, the NBA, even though they tell us it's not, NFL, even though they tell us it's not, MLB, even though they tell us it's not, is so prevalent because guys are looking for any sort of advantage that they could get against other top athletes. But you should not be at this point, this early stage, for Teofimo Lopez. Teo firing Gamache is like MJ firing Tim Grover. Yeah, I mean, the changes that Teofimo needs to make are all mental. And sure, like strength and conditioning, all that stuff, but it all ties in. There's some sort of dysfunction going on there. And we saw it after the fight. Like, we can't ignore those things. He's saying, do I still have it? For some reason, like, that, it was weird, and we can't just discount it. I know, like, that stuff should be off limits. I don't want to talk about it too much, but his wife not handing him the baby, and he's openly saying we're working on things. Like, there's clear mental dysfunction going on in that camp. Clear. And I think that's most of what's stunted his growth. He should be at linear growth right now. He's still in the intermediary process. Like, he's not in his 30s. He's early 20s. His peers in his early 20s, early to mid 20s, are still growing. They're still growing in their body. They're still becoming more athletic. They're still working and sharpening their tools. And he's flatlining. It reminds me of Danny Garcia. And that's why, like, I hear people say, oh, it's because he moved to 140. And I agree that 135, overvalued division. severely, and 140 severely undervalued division. And I said earlier that for Haney, I think Lomachenko is actually an easier fight for him than some guys at 140. But all that being said, the warning signs, the red flags started before he moved to 140. And that's why I say it reminds me of Danny Garcia and his growth pattern, his career arc is the warning signs were against Kambosos at 135. At 135. And Kambosos isn't a big lightweight. And he's not a power puncher at lightweight. So the warning signs were before he moved to 140. And it was a similar thing with Danny Garcia. I talked about this before. I remember going to Vegas for Mayweather versus Cotto, and I'm at one of the bars in MGM, and I look out, and Danny Garcia is right there. I still remember he was in a Puerto Rico tank top, standing next to Omar Henry. Omar Henry, some of you may remember at the time, was a top prospect. People were pushing him big time. And everybody was going to get autographs and pictures with Omar Henry. And we're largely ignoring Danny Garcia. This was 2012, I think, maybe 11, whatever it was. And then a year later, I go to Canelo versus Mayweather. And Danny Garcia is fighting in the co-feature and knocks out Matisse. And that's after, a couple months later, after I initially saw him with Omar Henry, he knocked Amir Khan. That's how quick somebody can blow up, from not much to blowing up. And he blew up. And those are good, really good wins at 140 and a really good run at 140. But what happened after that? The dysfunction started to show. He goes to Puerto Rico, spits out some fake Spanish. I thought he lost clearly against Herrera in that fight. The warning signs started before he moved to 147. And then the Lamont Peterson fight, I think that was at a catchweight, right? 144, whatever it was. But before he moved to 147, more warning signs. The red flags were there before 147, and I bring it up because it mirrors what I'm talking about with Teofimo. The warning signs showed up because the theory back then was 147 is better than 140. And it was at the time. So 147, and people start to blame him not winning big fights at 147 because he never got the big win at 147. And the blame was, well, he's a natural 140 pounder, although he wants to fight at 155 against the middleweight right now. Alibis. The warning signs were there when he was still at 140, that he would never get the big win at 147, and he didn't. Every time he was in the big fight, and he performed well in some of those fights, but he always came up short. Decent run at 140 until it wasn't. Moves up to 147, and all those red flags that we saw began to develop. Same thing with Teofimo Lopez. Is starting to follow that same career track. Is the warning signs were popping up at 135 against Kambosos. So he moves up to 140, a tougher division. Do we expect him to win those big fights at 140 when the red flags are everywhere? Everywhere. He should not be plateauing right now, fellas. He shouldn't. He was a -7. Sandor was a tough. I mean, you don't look great against Sandor, but it's still a fight you should win 7-3, 8-2. And that's what it said on the scorecards. But those of us who watched the fight closely, we didn't see that type of fight. He eked that one out. The red flags are there now. They're there. And how do you turn that? Like when you're in that logarithmic growth, like I said, it becomes super, super, super micro. Super micro. The things you have to fix in order to get back on track. Usually it's an age thing. Usually once you get into your 30s, it's almost impossible. Once you get to that master level and you've expended your best athletic ability, it's almost impossible. Unless you're on performance-enhancing drugs or something, it's almost impossible to start to separate yourself from your peers. Get better. So I asked myself, how can Teofimo Lopez get better at this point. I think it's all mental. It's very much a mental thing with him. He should not be at that level right now. He should still be in that intermediary stage. It goes back to golf. Once you get to that master level, once you get in the 80s and you want to get to the 70s, you're talking about you have to hit the fairway almost every time. Your second shot has to be right almost every time. Your chips have to get you close to the hole to where you're one putting. At worst, two putting. You can never three putt. You can't miss your chips. You can't. It's all super duper duper micro. You can't miss putts. You can't miss your chips. You can't miss fairways. You got to consistently do it every hole. Limit your mistakes. In order to do that, what do you have to have? This. You got to have this. So once this is messed up, what was the second? Chuck Knobloch. I remember he was with the Yankees. In Alden, one night, he couldn't throw the first base. He literally could not throw the first base anymore. Couldn't do it. And they tried everything, sports psychologists, everything to try to snap this guy out of it. And they couldn't. The dude could literally never throw the first base again. Never. He just short-circuited it and could not, literally, he could not do something that any ninth grader could do. Throw the ball at first base. He couldn't do it. That's how mental this sports thing is. So when you get to that point, you're trying to separate yourself from the top fighters. You have to have a certain mental strength, mental stability in order to try to do that. In order to improve physical attributes that you need to improve on to separate yourself, you have to have that mental foundation. And he doesn't have it right, fellas. Like, you can't ignore that. They're there. And the people out there who are saying, oh, you're just hating on Teofimo. Dude, I have no reason to hate on Teofimo. I was hoping for him to look. Not too many fighters out there can go out and get a Bud Light contract. Not too many. He did. He did it. So he has some sort of star qualities that these other fighters don't. You want a guy like that to be successful, but he's out there claiming that he's the best fighter of his era. He's picking fights with dudes on Twitter who are actually out there accomplishing things, and he's demeaning them. And then you expect for him to not be criticized at all, and any sort of criticism for him is seen as hate? No. Mark Kriegel's not going to be everywhere. Like, Mark Kriegel can't walk around with this dude. And the other guy, I'm not going to mention his name, they can't walk around with him everywhere and say, nope, like bodyguards. No, you can't criticize. Nope. Eventually, Mark Kriegel's not going to be there. And the other guy, eventually they're not going to be there. Like, some sort of criticism is going to come inherited with accomplishing great things. Like the Lomachenko win was a great win. It really was. It's a great win. But with that comes the other stuff. You're going to be critiqued more. And especially when you're out there talking gully, like he's talking on Twitter, and things he's saying, more criticism is going to come. So you can't just throw it out there and say, oh, you're just hating on him. You're just hating on him. No, man. Like, I'm just saying that there are clear warning signs out there. David just resigns with Sampson despite an activity just announced. Good old American boxer mentality. He resigns with Sampson. And this is what I'm saying too, Drew, is not to get off topic. A lot of these American fighters, they complain about not getting the fights, not getting the dates. And we're being told by other fans, oh, the fighters want it. It's just the politics getting in the way. Well, if the politics are getting in the way, why are they racing with these guys? David's out there complaining that he can't get the fights he wants. He wants to be more active, but then he re-signs with these guys. And maybe there's maybe David's going to turn. Maybe the Caleb Plant fight, he wins that one, and they continue to grow from that. We'll see, but I don't have much optimism. And this is what I say about the Canelo thing is I like Canelo because he showed me a track record that he's willing to take the tough fights. He consistently showed me something throughout his career. The issue that I have now with fighters is even if these guys win a big fight. Like when Manny beat Oscar, Manny took that and ran with it. When Floyd beat Oscar, Floyd took that opportunity and ran with it. Despite what we think about his career after that, protecting the O, risk reward, currency over legacy, that dude perfectly polarized himself. That was a perfect. Like that was textbook marketing right there. Textbook expert marketing, mass marketing from Floyd. Perfectly polarized the market to where people were willing to hate watch the guy. Every fight I saw it, I would invite casuals over my house. I want to watch the Mayweather fight. Okay, we'll watch it. And then they would leave and say, I'll never watch the dude fight again. And then 6 months to a year later, they would come back to my house and watch the dude fight again. I've never seen anything like it. But he took that opportunity and ran with it. The issue with these other guys is when they beat Canelo, I don't think they're going to take that opportunity and run with it. Bivol, hopefully he does. I think Bivol is the fighter of the year, and I think Bivol's cut from that cloth, but it's going to be tough being a star when you're from Russia. It's going to be tough being a star in America when you're from Russia. It's just the nature of it. So when we're talking about building a future star, a future American star, I don't have much faith that these American fighters, once they take advantage of something, that they'll be able to keep running with it. Back to Teofimo Lopez real quick is his dad in his corner not giving him clear and concise directions that any of us here in this chat could give him. We all saw it. We all saw it. We all saw it. Prograis would destroy, absolutely destroy. Shout out Chicano Prophet. Absolutely destroy Teofimo Lopez. That would be ugly. And the sad thing about it is I don't know what the path forward for Teofimo is. Like how do you do it? How do you get creative with him without him losing these fights at 140? Because I look at the top 10 at 140. I don't see where the clear Teofimo win is. I'm not saying he can't beat some of those guys. I don't see where the clear win is. And Prograis is a fight you definitely don't want to make with him if you want him to win. But there are clear red flags, and it's tough, man. Like every other sport, you go from high school, college, pros, and you get different coaches, right? And you get coaches who, because they're at higher levels, they're supposed to be more of masters in that field. And with boxing, it's not that way. You can stay with the same trainer throughout your whole career. But there's a reason why a lot of fighters change trainers at a certain point. Look at Jack Lowe, Kelly Pavlik. When your trainer tells you double, triple jab, double, triple jab, double, triple jab, it can only get you so far. A lot of fighters change trainers at a certain point in their career because they need something else. They're in that logarithmic growth process. They need more micro technical advice. They need better chemistry with their trainer. And what technical micro advice is Teofimo's dad giving him in the corner? And clearly, there's something off with the chemistry in that whole camp. Like we all see it, right? Chat, you see it, right? The chat sees it, right? There's something clearly off in the camp. Something clearly off. Like not right. Red flags everywhere, mentally. And when everything is off mentally, how do you physically improve on those micro things that you need to improve on in order to beat your top peers? And it worked for Lomachenko for whatever reason. Like your trainers, like Jack Lowe and Pavlik, it worked with Jermaine Taylor winning a middleweight fight. And I'm not minimalizing that. Those are great wins. Lomachenko is one of the best wins of the past few years, past 5 years. Teofimo winning that fight. It is. But clearly now there's a plateau. We're looking at 3 fights out now where it hasn't been right. Something's off. So we need micro technical advice to get Teofimo back on track, and we also need chemistry to be back right. So maybe it can be righted with his dad. I don't know, but I'm not optimistic. I can tell you that I'm not optimistic. When have you seen his dad give him technical, clear, micro technical advice that's going to help him in the ring in between rounds? And clearly the training camps haven't been what they need to be. So the sad part about this is the change isn't going to happen. He's not going to fire his dad. He's not. So when you ask me about Teofimo Lopez going forward, I'm not optimistic that he's going to have the big win at 140. I'm not saying he can't have some good wins. I'm not saying he's not going to make a lot of money. I'm not saying any of that. He can be successful in those ways, but I don't see him being this transcendent talent that we maybe thought he was after the Lomachenko fight. And I'm using Danny Garcia as a model. We got to pay attention to our history. Is pretty much the same career track. And Danny Garcia had his moments at 140 where he won some decent fights and was competitive in big fights, but he never won the big fight. If you're asking me today, December 14, 2022, if Teofimo Lopez will ever win the big fight at 140, I'm going to say no. He should be in linear growth right now. The 3 stages of growth: exponential growth, like you're growing big time at the beginning. From where you started, you're growing big time. Then you go into linear growth. The growth slows down, but it's still going well. And then logarithmic growth is plateauing. You start to plateau a little bit. And any kind of growth, it has to do with something micro, super micro. And he shouldn't already be there. And that's a natural career arc of an athlete, right? It sort of goes like this until it goes down. And Teofimo shouldn't be at that plateau process yet. He should be where his young peers are, to where each year you can see the talent level getting better. You can see the athletic level getting better. You can see the technical fighting skill getting better. Loma drifting into AJ territory. Hype hasn't really matched the results. Sorry. And I think that Lomachenko has had a great career, but I tend to agree with you. Like right now, there's a plateau with Lomachenko as well, an aging process that's naturally happened. And we can debate all we want about what do we think of his career the past decade. I'm sure me and Nando would differ. But one thing we'd agree on is I actually think that Lomachenko fight is easier for Haney. And I shouldn't say easier. That's probably not the word. It's more winnable. Even though I can see Lomachenko winning that fight, it's more winnable than some of these fights from top fighters at 140 stylistically. So I'm going to end it on that. I appreciate y'all swinging through. God bless. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be back tomorrow. Peace.